We're in the season of Lent and we're on our way to Jerusalem. But who will show us the way to Jerusalem? Jesus will show us the way to Jerusalem. In the beginning, the baby was born. God chose Mary to be the mother of God, and the Word of God was born a wordless child. When the baby looked up into the face of the mother Mary and the father Joseph, the cross was already there. They kept the baby warm and safe and gave him everything he needed to grow. And he began to grow. When Jesus was about 12 years old, he went with Mary and Joseph and the others from the village of Nazareth to the great city of Jerusalem to celebrate one of the great high holy days. On the way back, Mary and Joseph realised that Jesus wasn't with them. They searched everywhere, even in the temple, and there he was. He was sitting with the priests and the rabbis and the teachers. When Jesus spoke, they listened because he seemed to know so much. And when they spoke, Jesus listened because he wanted to know so much more. He said, "Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" Mary and Joseph didn't understand. They didn't understand, but they didn't forget. And later they would understand. The boy grew and became a man. And when Jesus was about 30 years old, he went down to the Jordan River where his cousin John was baptizing people. "Baptize me," Jesus said. So Jesus went into the deep, dark, chaotic waters of the Jordan River. And when John brought him back up into the light, some people said they saw a dove that came close to Jesus. And other people said they heard a voice from heaven saying, "This is my son. With him I am well pleased." And Jesus walked out of the Jordan River and went to the other side. And he was led by the Spirit into the desert. He was there for 40 days and 40 nights. He wanted to know more about who he was and the work he would be given to do. During the 40 days and 40 nights he was in the desert, there was little food to eat or water for him to drink. And he was tempted in the desert. After he had been there for 40 days and 40 nights, he went back across the Jordan River and into the villages to begin to do his work. Jesus was to come close to people, especially close to people that no one else wanted to be close to. He healed and he taught, and when people came close to Jesus, they changed. They became well. And then one day he knew it was time for him to return to Jerusalem. And he turned to Jerusalem one last time. And when Jesus turned to Jerusalem one last time, it was the time of the feast of the Passover. And the city was full of people from many lands. They thought Jesus had come to be their king, but they weren't paying attention. When Jesus came through the gates of the city on that Sunday, he was not riding on a great white horse. He was not being carried by soldiers. He was riding on a donkey, and it wasn't even his. He'd borrowed it. But people tore down branches from the palm trees and waved them anyway, which was a sign of a king. On Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, Jesus taught in the temple, and in the evenings he and the 12 went to the Mount of Olives to rest. And people watched and said, "You know, it is said that angels will gather at the Mount of Olives and raise up an army and chase away the Roman soldiers." One day, when Jesus was teaching in the temple, he said to the people, "Look, do you see this old woman coming in? She has something for the treasury box. Listen, can you hear it?" You cannot hear what she dropped in. It was a tiny coin. It was all she had. And then he said, "Look, here's a man coming in with much wealth. He has help carrying in all of the coins he's going to give to the treasury. Listen to that loud crash as they all go in." And then Jesus asked, "Who do you think gave the most? The wealth of the man who had much, much money, or the old woman who gave the one coin that she had?" Some said the rich man, and some people said the woman because she gave all that she had. The temple guard said on Thursday, "He will take him." But on Thursday no one could find Jesus. He wasn't in the dark and narrow streets. He wasn't in the marketplace or even in the temple. But on Thursday evening, Jesus and the 12 crept through the dark and narrow streets to a house where there was an upper room. They climbed up the steps to that upper room where they were to have their Last Supper. And after they had had everything they wanted to eat and drink, Jesus did something a little strange. He took a little bit of bread, gave thanks to God, and broke it and gave it to them, and he said, "Whenever you break and share the bread like this, I will be there with you." And then he took up the cup of wine, and he thanked God for it, and he gave it to them and said, "Whenever you share the wine like this, I will be there with you." Well, they must have wondered, what does he mean? He's here. He was always saying things like that. How could they know? But they never forgot. Later they would understand. Judas got up suddenly and left. The rest of them sung a hymn, which was their custom, and then they went out to the Mount of Olives. There was a garden there called Gethsemane, and Jesus wanted to pray there. And when he had finished praying, he went to join the 12. Judas came out of the shadows and greeted him with a kiss. This was a sign to the temple guards to take him. They too came out of the shadows and took Jesus away into the dark night. And the 12 also disappeared into the blackness of that very black night. That night was a very confusing one. And the next day, Friday, in the morning, Jesus was taken outside of the walls of the great city of Jerusalem and crucified on the cross. And that afternoon, Jesus died. The sky turned very black. You can just barely see the crown of thorns on his head. His friends came and took his body down from the cross, and they laid it in a new cave, and they rolled a great huge stone over the opening to shut it like a door.